and a few observations and remarks. And first, if Tristan, you can show the slide. I want to acknowledge the great work of everyone involved in organizing and contributing to this meeting. When you look at the slides that I hope is coming up soon, you see dozens of names, and every one of those people here has contributed somewhere between a few hours to a few weeks in making this meeting what it was. And I hope I'm not overlooking anyone, and I also hope that you will agree with the familiar style of omitting academic titles. And without really naming everyone, I want to thank our AGM chair, Brian Moorman, on behalf of everyone for the excellent work that the entire group did. And in a real meeting, we would now all be standing up and clapping enthusiastically, and I think it would be really, really well deserved. So thank you all. This is a really large team of people who came together to make this happen. Number two, I want to speak to our students and postdocs and welcome you to this network on behalf of everyone involved. This is really about you. What you've seen in this meeting may not always connect an obvious way to the research you will be doing in your thesis. And in fact, many of you may still be busy wrapping your heads around the projects you've signed up for, and this is absolutely normal. But what I hope you take away from this meeting is that you have a very big network of allies who welcome you and who will support you in your research and your personal journeys with great enthusiasm. And in a way, I speak from experience because I too am a newcomer. I've come to Canada 7 years ago, and in many ways, my research began almost from scratch again here. And many of the people who are behind this network are the same people who have welcomed me into their research topics and often at their dinner tables. And in many ways, they patiently taught me where I needed that. Number three, I want to salvage some of my opening remarks and share a few thoughts and observations on the network. After this meeting, please take a moment to click on the Members tab on our network's homepage. What you'll find there are only lists, but when you read them, imagine how all of these individuals and organizations support what we do. I want to bring this to life a little bit here now. First and foremost is what's called staff on the page, the administrative center. You cannot imagine the amount of work and dedication and diligence and good spirits that Shirley McKee, our Director of Operations, Tristan McLean, our Zoom Master and Knowledge Communication and Mobilization Coordinator, Emma Stockton, who is our Administrative Assistant, and also Nick Brown, who's our Network Data Scientist, bring into making all of us work smoothly in everyday life. They've worked through a smooth transition into pandemic mode. They've enabled this meeting, and I really hope that you will have a chance to appreciate your appreciation for their work. You've all met the HQP and seen their excellent short presentations. And based on the feedback I've received, this has been a success, both for the HQP and for all the others. And if you think about this, it's about half the cohort that we have. So this is going to grow by about a factor of 2 in the next year. And I want to specifically acknowledge the difficulties that everyone has gone through, especially our HQP. Many of them have not even arrived in Canada. I have a student who lives in Japan waiting for a visa. She lives the life of a vampire, is what I say jokingly, because she sleeps during the day and takes classes during the night. So it's really spectacular that we can come together like this. You've also seen in this meeting the work of the Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Committee. They think about how we can maintain and improve the engine of the network, our connections. And it's easy to overlook how important and valuable this is. If we were a large company like Google or IBM, the people doing this work would be insanely paid because they multiply the innovation and efficiency of everyone together. So this is not just an afterthought or a touchy-feely thing. This is at the core of what we do. And I hope that we all walk away from this realizing how important that is. You will find the investigators listed on this website. They are the professors receiving funding to support and advise graduate work, and they take the primary responsibility for our research and networking on a day-to-day basis. And for example, Chris Byrne and Riley Beddow moderate weekly meetings of Theme 5, and many others run similar meetings. And these are all the different little nodes and pockets where we manifest as a network. The collaborators you see listed, they are scientists who contribute to the research, even though they do not receive funding. They support field research, internships, and they participate, for example, in advising graduate work, and many volunteer on selection committees for our graduate students so that we can live up to our aspirations for being inclusive. And just on a personal note, when I email to people who I know are high-powered government scientists or very, very thinly spread people in the North, asking them for their help, and I get an email back that says, yes, of course, I feel really good about this network. The members of the Knowledge Mobilization and Communications Committee have created strategy and procedures for effective and appropriate communication. Imagine the diversity of the network and its different communication needs. Policymakers, students, people in northern communities. They don't all want to have 100 emails a day, and they don't all want the same emails. So this is a huge undertaking. The members of our board of directors and the members of the scientific committee give strategic direction for the network. And this kind of sounds trivial, but it really is not trivial because we're operating across sectors and jurisdictions. And again, these are very experienced and competent people who volunteer hours and hours and days of their time, take our calls, and help us to think about how we're moving this network forward. Finally, I have to say that all of this is only able because we have the generous support of NSERC, of all the supporting organizations, and of the supporting academic institutions. And I really continue to be amazed how much engagement and support we receive from incredibly competent people. I don't actually think this is normal, and I'm really deeply grateful, I have to say deeply moved when I interact with these people for the amount of investment of time and trust that we receive. So number 4, I want to take a moment and look back where we came from, because that somehow informs how we think forward now, coming out of this AGM into next year and thinking further ahead. So we're about 3.5 years past our initial workshop on Valentine's Day, incidentally, for the creation of a Pan-Canadian Permafrost network. And so this week we've had the combined annual meetings of the Canadian Permafrost Association, now a fully grown association with a strategic plan and 200 members, and of NSERC PermafrostNet that is fully funded, up and running, and we have constantly between 60 and 90 people participating. I want us to remember that our success builds on the contributions and support of many people, more than the ones who are funded or otherwise involved in NSERC PermafrostNet. And so while as an NSERC strategic partnership network, we need to stay focused on the specific objectives we're funded for, we also need to remember where we came from as we evolve our research into follow-up funding. We cannot see ourselves as an exclusive and closed club. 5, as we move forward, we're presented with a number of challenges, some evergreens for networks included, that we can turn into opportunities. The one, as always, is participation. It's very simple. Being a network causes a lot of work up front, and the full benefits will only become apparent over time. I hope we will be able to keep up the great engagement that we've had so far. And even though we have some staff, most of the network, most of what we see here builds on us volunteering our time and our attention. Number 2, authorship and acknowledgement. We need to start and then continue to have a conversation about this. Many of us may not be used to working in large consortia, and its experience shows that diverging and unclear expectations in a collaboration create problems later. Often these problems affect the students most. If we have a culture of discussing this early, it's going to make us more productive because we need to be less guarded and less afraid of sharing. We have field work. COVID's not over, and we need to work together well to be successful. This is difficult, but as we see with this meeting, it also creates pretty good ways of working together that will stick with us later on. Working across silos. We've heard about the need to work across disciplines and also about the necessity of, for example, modelers to achieve better basic knowledge of permafrost science. But how easy are we actually making this? Do we seem like a friendly group? I think it's helpful if we see ourselves as greeters and as hosts rather than as guardians for our discipline. One of the comments about this meeting that I have received yesterday was, my favorite accomplishment of PermafrostNet is that the group is welcoming. And many other comments we received expressed a great appreciation of the networking possibilities here. This is really great. I think we're doing well at the core of what we want to achieve. In our proposal, we've expressed a lot of high aspirations, and also we need to keep our expectations realistic. We can turn this into change beyond our network. I want to give 3 examples. We've committed to creating knowledge and to developing prototypes of knowledge products. These are prototypes because we are a temporal network. The reliable long-term delivery of services, for example, to support engineering design of infrastructure, is bigger than this network. We will train multi-talented permafrost experts, but in the long run, this training will still need to be existing after the network. This is really difficult, and it needs to be housed at Canadian universities and hopefully also those existing and coming into existence in the North. We want to be a catalyst for working and deciding collaboratively, and collaborative work and leadership in the long run, again, needs to be reflected in how Canadian institutions operate. We really have a lot to do together. And the final point I want to make is our next AGM. First, I really hope we will be able to meet in person. And with around 20 HQP having started already, and I just noticed how comical it is to say HQP for people. You know, I mean students and postdocs and actual persons working. This is not a good acronym. Anyway, 20 have started already. That's about half the group. And we can expect that our next annual general meeting is going to be strongly focused on research and on the research happening in the network. And I look really forward to this. I hope that, like me, you experience NSERC PermafrostNet as making you better at what you do. And knowing that almost every one of you has contributed to this network success, I hope that you felt a sense of achievement during this meeting. Thank you for being such a welcoming and fun and supporting group. And with that, I'll give it back to Michelle, who I'm sure has some plans of how this is going to finish. No?
Well,
anyway,
Stephan,
it's been a pleasure to having you all.
Exactly. The final word, I think Stephan gets the final word. So let's give him a round of applause. Yes. And for everyone else, I'm going to remove my spotlight because I think we need to all be spotlighting. Let's remove all the spotlights if we can, and then view the screen as a gallery. I encourage everybody to go into gallery and have a scroll. There's still 3 screens. Not everybody has their video on, but everybody deserves a pat on the back. Thank you everyone for your contributions, whether it was through a Google Doc, a small group discussion, by listening and learning, or by stepping up on a panel. It's really greatly appreciated. Brian, do we have any final words before we sign off from these 3 days? Brian is our chair. So Brian.
Just a big thank you to everybody who participated in this, and a big thank you to everybody that helped make it happen today. So I think that's it. Look forward to seeing everybody in the not too distant future.
Great. Thank you to everyone. If you haven't already updated your Zoom, you should go and do it right now because you can interact much better.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, all.
Yeah. Okay, Brian and Stephan have to stay, but everyone else is free to go.
All right, thank you, Permafrost AGM team. You guys were very good in facilitating all this.
Thanks for stepping up, Pascal.
You're welcome.